Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Valenti. Our speaker today is a volunteer. The best way to thank them would be to provide honest and useful feedback with the session evaluation at the conclusion of our session today. Our tech master will drop into the chat towards the end of the session. If you miss it, do not worry. We will follow up with an email at the conclusion of LACE. If you are not speaking, please remember to keep yourself on mute to avoid background noise. We will have a fun and interactive session planned today. If you want to see the speaker and make the presentation smaller, drag the speaker window to the left of your screen. I will be providing timing backgrounds for our speaker: green at 47 minutes, yellow at 48 minutes, and red at 49 minutes. Thank you. And now let me introduce our speaker. Carl Walsh has been a Toastmaster for 17 years. He was the finalist for the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2009, representing Founders District. Carl spent 28 years in corporate America, eventually rising to IT Director of Quality Services. After leaving the corporate world in 2009, he has spoken to groups across the country about building their businesses and business teams, and is currently appearing regularly to London audiences. He is a professional member of the National Speakers Association. Carl is also currently the co-host of the Oval Table podcast, available on all major platforms. The podcast serves the small and closely held business community. In 34 episodes and running, the podcast has hosted such world authorities as Patricia Fripp, Jim Cathcart, Scott McCain, David Muir, Mark Hunter, Susan Rowan, Joel Block, Derek Arden, Antonio White, and many others. Today, Carl will be discussing how to create and maintain your high-performance decision-making team. Let's give a warm welcome to Carl.
Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. Today, what I'm going to do is give you a rundown on basically a way that you can easily and quickly figure people out, what their concerns are, so that you can talk to them in terms that they understand and in terms that actually apply to their concerns. And through this, be able to create a high performance team. Now, we talk a lot about diversity, and that's great. And I'm all for that in every way possible, but that tends to really just focus on race and culture, and that's fine. What I'm going to talk about today is diversity of thought, which very few companies have in the decision-making team. And I'm going to talk about companies and I'm going to talk about businesses today, but hey, look, if you're an area director, if you're a club president, if you're a district director, all these principles apply. And guess what? They also apply with your family at home. It's all about understanding the people you're talking to and what moves them, what drives them. So that's where we're going to go. And let's start, first of all, with how many companies fail. According to the Small Business Administration, how many companies in small business fail? But what they tell us is that 20% go under in the first year, 50% by the 5th year, and 66% by the 10th year. And you can relate that to any projects that you have going. If they're long-term projects, how successful will they be over time? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some profiles that Douglas Bowers created over the years. I started collaborating with him back in about 2010, 2011. So this has been in the works for a long time. And what he's done is identified 7 different personalities. And these personalities have good traits. Some of them have not so great traits also mixed in there, but they're all essential to running a successful business and to having a high performance team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this. I'm going to give you a little test here. So what I want you to do is look at this. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds here. I want you to look at these different characters. I want you to choose one that really speaks to you. Now, it has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with breed, the color, none of that. It has nothing to do with the dog you had when you were a kid or the dog you have now. I just want you to look at these right now. Which one speaks to you? Now, as it turns out, about half of the people that we test with this may come up with two dogs, and that's fine. That's often the case because, frankly, we all have some of these characteristics in our makeup, but people generally either choose one or two. So if you're done with that, I will move on and start explaining just who the heck these characters are. First on the left there was Stan. Now, Stan is the reality check. He's the enforcer. Nothing gets by his attention, even if he doesn't say anything about it. He's often the person in the back who's not saying anything, but he's listening and he's recording up here. He's often found in accounting, strategic planning, and in measurement functions. He has a great institutional memory for what has been tried before and what the result was. He can put a plan together before you're even done describing it to him. Takes a lot of evidence to convince Stan. He's a show me kind of guy. And it takes a lot to prove to him that you are correct. The next person is Jack. Now, Jack is the get-her-done dog. Typically, he's in production or production management. He knows how to get things done, but not so much in deciding what should be done. That's for the other dogs to figure out. But once they do, there isn't much that he doesn't know how to do because he's been there, he's done that. He is driven by the pursuit of getting things done. He knows the what and the how, as long as he knows what the end product is to be or what the end service is to be. Next on our lineup is Buster. Now, Buster is not only the life of the party, he is the party. It can start once he shows up. And he likes to be the center of attention. In fact, he often insists on it. If he likes something, he figures, well, you should too. One thing to keep in mind, Buster will very rarely help you unless it helps him too. He's a transactional character. His relationships are all of a transactional nature. He always wants to be thought of as special. He lives in the land of yes, where the impossible is always possible because, well, he says so. Especially true if he's interested in it. He will be found in outside sales, but not just in outside sales. You probably figured by now that he was a salesperson, but he can be in inside sales too. If you need someone to get an idea across, to sell an idea to everybody around you, Buster is your guy because persuasion, that is his business. Next, we have Big Dog. Now, Big Dog, you can think of him as the keeper of the flame. He is the conscience of the business. He is the coordinating leader of the group. He's not a dictatorial leader. He seeks to build consensus, or at least a willingness to try something to see if it works. He is pragmatic, sometimes to a fault. He likes to say, when I know you, I can lead you. So he likes to understand the people around him. He probably came from one of the other 6 dogs before becoming Big Dog. Maybe he wasn't superior at the other roles, decent, but not the best. But then he doesn't have to be. That is what the other dogs are for. His experience is wide, not necessarily deep, but he has a very wide experience that goes beyond what the other dogs have and their rather narrow focus. His value is in being able to understand what is going on around him. He understands what a dog says, even when the others don't. Thus, he can tell others what another dog meant to say, and in a way that the other dog can agree. He is thus able to reduce conflict and create more understanding. His biggest desire is in watching the other dogs achieve their own greatness. And he leads with purpose, he inspires with passion, and rewards with gratitude. He is direct when he needs to be, differential the rest of the time. He is willing to listen to the ideas of others, even if he thinks they're wrong. He's not bossy. He is polite and understanding as long as an outsider does not attack one of the other dogs. If that happens, well, then it's game on. Next to Big Dog, we have Tracy. Now, Tracy is a warm and loving dog, a dog who cares about other dogs. He cares about their well-being. While the others need to be there, Tracy is the one who is absolutely essential, because Tracy is the one who makes the environment livable so that people can work at their best levels. When things go wrong, which they will from time to time, it is Tracy who makes things right again. Many of the dogs don't realize the importance of the role she plays. She is driven by seeing the good in other people, even if she has to overlook the bad. Her biggest desire for others is to appreciate her, which doesn't always happen, and that can be a real problem. She can get overlooked with the problems of others and needs to be protected and not run over. She's slow to anger, quick to help. She is sympathetic to all. She uses the power of suggestion and the private one-on-one to guide and never push. Some of the professions that you may see Tracy in are human resources, in the military, because very often the military is all about protecting, police, teachers, nurses, coaches, and I'm sure you can think of others that are not on that list, but this is where Tracy lives. This is her territory. Next, it's Ranger. Now, Ranger is the contemplator in chief. He is driven by dreaming what could be without any consideration for what's actually possible. He has no idea how to make those dreams come true. That's the job for the others to figure out. If the dreams are to be done, they will not be done by him. He is never hindered by facts or constraints of the moment, which, let's face it, they would only hold him back. But on the ground, before the dreams can become real, he often has second thoughts. And that's why he needs the oval table and the others to support him, to reach a consensus and let him know that they believe in what he's doing. You can find him in corporate planning, and you can certainly find him in product development and creative innovation. And finally, at our table, we have Scotty. Scotty is the risk manager, or he would like to be. He sees risk first and always. Some of the risks he sees are clear and present, even if others don't see them. Sometimes he imagines risk that's not even there, perhaps not even possible. This constant focus on the negative can drive the others nuts, especially Jack and Buster. I mean, let's face it, Buster lives in the land of yes, Scotty lives in the land of no. So those two often are not going to get along. And that's why they need a big dog who can translate what one says to the other so that it's done in an understandable way that actually talks to the other's concerns. The thing is, while he lives in the land of no, and Buster lives in the land of yes, and so do many of the others, his value is in protecting us from things or mistakes that we don't see. Exposure to the unknown drives him nuts. He can't understand why the others don't see the risks and are not as concerned as he is. You can find him obviously in quality control, as a compliance officer in a finance or securities firm, or as an attorney. Unfortunately for the others, nothing gets by him, nothing is overlooked by him, and nothing is ignored. But that's also the problem. Too much concentration on the no. He operates from the position that controlling risk to a sustainable level makes survival possible. Maybe. Now, his real value, and this is a real value, understand this, his real value to everyone is that he will keep you from flying the plane into the ground. That's his job, and it's a very valuable one. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Oval Table team. That is our team that has diversity of thought. They can look at any problem from any angle and find a solution because they each look at it in a different way. And if they can at least come to a consensus, and one thing about the Oval Table, it must always be civil. Everyone is free to speak their mind, and the flow of information is to be kept open at all times. If you've ever worked with a group like that, you know how powerful that is. And if you've ever worked with a group that doesn't abide by these principles, you know how destructive it can be. So let's go back right now. Let's start attaching this to the real world. I mean, that was fun. We have these nice characters. And by the way, we did it as dogs because it's neutral. Most people like dogs. It's not threatening. You can actually pick a character, and there's no negative side to it. All of these characters are necessary. All of these people are essential to the proper running of a business. So if we go back to the figures that I showed you before, how many companies fail? Well, 20% in the first year, 50% in the fifth year, and 66% by the 10th year. Well, let's ask the more important question. Why do they fail? And how could having this group of characters on your side and functioning as your high performance decision-making team, how might they have avoided going out of business? Well, here's the largest reason why businesses go out. And that is, believe it or not, 42%. There's no market need for their products or services. This is according to the Small Business Administration now. They've delved into this. 42%. There's no need for what they do. Well, right off the bat, Stan could have kept you out of trouble there. Stan would have done the market research. He would have found out that there's no need for what you're planning to do. Another person that can really help you with that is Buster. Now, Buster, he faces the customers day in and day out. He is speaking to them. He's speaking to them about their needs. He's speaking to them about your product. He will know right away if there's a problem. If there's no need, he'll come back and say, no, nobody seems real excited about it. And that's if you're doing test marketing first, which is always a good idea. Test the product first with your customers. Do they even want it? And our next one here, Jack, well, if you decide that that's a problem, that your services or product just people don't want it, that's when you get down and you start thinking about, well, what can we do to make this better? What can we do? And by the way, you'd probably bring Ranger in on this as well. How can we make this a better product? You can find out from Stan and Buster, what is it that's lacking? Why is it that people aren't interested in it? And what can we do about it? Or just throw it overboard and do something else without spending all your money. The next reason why people or businesses fail is because they didn't have the right team running the business. You see that all the time in small business. You have an owner or a manager who considers themselves, well, they think of themselves as the person that everything is on their shoulders. Everything. All decisions must come through them. I'll give you a rather sad example of that recently was the school shooting in Uvalde. There was clearly an atmosphere within that police department that you did not make a move unless you got permission from the head guy to do it. You had all these very well-armed policemen on site right there who didn't make a move unless the big guy gave them permission to. There was even an armed policeman on site who saw the gunman go in the school with a rifle. And he sat there and waited for permission to do something about it. How many businesses fail because, yeah, everybody's just frozen. They can't make a move without the head guy. And you know, one brain is not going to come up with the best solutions. One brain is not going to come up with all the great products. The oval table will. That diversity of thought, that ability to look at things from different angles that each character has, well, that's how you're going to get it done. And you're going to avoid the problem that, of course, we saw in Uvalde, Texas, sadly. Big Dog. Well, he knows how to put a team together. That's what he does. That's his life, building and running teams. So he's going to put the correct team together because he knows that he needs this diversity of thought. And he's going to maintain that team. And he's going to bring people on when he finds people who can contribute. And of course, Tracy's going to make them stay. That's what she does. Tracy eliminates all the turnover that happens in a company. You know, one of the largest expenses, particularly in a small business, is turnover, because this very experienced person leaves, you bring someone new on. Even if they're experienced in that area, how long is it going to take them to come up to speed with what you do, with what your business does? And that's an expense. That's wasted money. And so Tracy's going to make sure that those valuable employees stay. Because very often it's the valuable employees who get lured away. They're the ones that you lose. Nobody wants your lousy employees, if there is such a thing. All right, 17% of businesses go out because of poor product offering. So what might that be? Is it a product that breaks easily, that's made of poor materials, that's constructed badly? Or maybe it's a product that doesn't fully meet the customer's needs. Well, here's the people that can help you with this. And a lot of people can help you with this at the Oval Table. This will be a great discussion. First of all, Buster's going to find out what's wrong. Why are people not satisfied with your product? And he's going to bring that back into the table so everyone can discuss it. Scotty would have probably, in his quality services capacity, he would have figured out, he would have tested it, he would have found out that it was badly constructed and made of poor materials. He would have figured that out, and he would have alerted you to it. Ranger, well, maybe he can figure out if it's a product that works well and is built well, but it's just not meeting the customer's needs. Well, Ranger can innovate, and he can figure out how to meet the customer's needs. And Buster's going to be telling him all about that. And then Jack, of course, in production, he's going to figure out how to get that done and do it at a reasonable price. 19% of companies fail because they are outcompeted. They are simply outcompeted. And Stan, as he does his constant market research, he's going to figure that out, that someone has come up with a product that does almost exactly what yours does, and they're putting it out at a cheaper price. What do you do about that? Well, Jack can get more efficient into his engineering and his production, but Ranger can figure out how we make the product better, how we innovate it, how we make it even more valuable to the customer, so that our product, our service is the only one that the customer wants. And forget that cheap knockoff that is out competing you because of price. If you come up with quality, if you come up with innovation, price begins to go away as a factor in the customer's decision-making. 29% of companies fail because they run out of cash. They just simply ran out of cash. They weren't watching the outflow against the inflow. So Stan, obviously, he's in accounting, he's a numbers guy. He can probably tell you exactly how much is in the bank now, what your revenue is, what your burn rate is. He can probably tell you exactly when you'll run out of cash, exactly when you're going to need to take more loans, exactly the day when they'll stop giving you more loans, and exactly the day that you will have to turn out the lights and lock the doors. Stan can do that for you, so that you can alter what you're doing to manage your cash flow better. It all becomes part of the business plan when you do that. And let me ask you, how many people had a business plan for COVID? How many people had a business plan? Did Toastmasters have a business plan for what to do in COVID? No, but they were able to pivot quickly and keep it running and keep it alive by converting over to our online tools. So this kind of thing, being able to know what's happening, know your health, and being able to pivot, this is something that Stan can help you with. And also Buster, well, as he's the sales team, he's got to figure out a way to do more sales. He's got to figure out how to bring in more revenue in order to match. Perhaps we're pulling back a little bit on expenses, and we can increase revenue just a little bit more in order to keep our business plan healthy and alive. And Buster will handle the income. And of course, Jack, can he improve his methods? Can he improve his production? Is there a better way to do it that costs less? Is there a better vendor, by the way, for the same materials, or that he can find and save money on the production end? 14% of companies fail because they ignored their customers. Can you believe that? They ignored their customers. Stan, well, he's doing market research all the time. He's probably surveying customers to find out what they think of it. And Buster, well, once again, he's face to face with customers all the time, and they're talking to him. They're telling him and they are giving him information that is gold to any company, any project that you have. If you can interface with the people that it's meant to serve, get their input. Your customers are talking to you. Listen. They may just save your project. They may just save your business. And finally, I talked about business plan before, and the amazing thing is 17% of businesses go under because they don't have a business plan. They just said, well, I think this is a wonderful idea and we're going to do it. And they're in the wilderness. They have no path to follow. And of course, they run into trouble. And if you want to put a great business plan together, how better to do it than to have these people on your side putting that business plan together, looking at all the aspects from every angle with a diversity of thought. What am I saying? I am saying, ladies and gentlemen, feed your business with the brain power around you. Most companies actually have some or all of these personalities there. It may be a person in the warehouse. It may be a person, it may be a receptionist who talks to vendors all the time. She may have information, or he. Listen to them. Bring them in. The people on the front lines, your frontline workers, they know more about certain aspects of your business than management will ever know. And their voice needs to be heard. They need to be heard at the Oval Table. We need to have that diversity of thought. So feed your business with the brain power around you. So now we're going to go a little interactive here. I want to find out how many people, well, who are you at the table? And what character, now that you know who they are and you saw them in the beginning and you chose one, who are you? And so I'm going to ask Patricia first. Patricia, who did you see yourself as?
You. I wasn't on it, but I know I'm the leading person.
You're the big dog, huh?
Is that, yes, that listens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get variety, listen to people and empower other people to help make your project what it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Good. So that's the big dog. When I first did the test, I came up with big dog and as a sort of strange secondary Scotty, because that's my experience. My experience is wide. I put teams together. That's what corporations hire me for, to put teams together. But I'm also really concerned about the risks. So if something, very often, as I say, two dogs, one is dominant, the other is a concern. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's just a healthy person who can walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay, Ryan, who did you see yourself as?
Initially, when you just put up the pictures, I picked Tracy, but as you explained it, I feel like I would lean towards the big dog myself. I enjoy the breadth of the organization or the club or the team, and understand each person's role and try and make sure that it's completed each correctly. They're not fighting over each other in essence. I don't know if I have enough depth to say on that point, but I like to imagine myself in that direction as the big dog.
Well, then you might want to consider that you may be a big dog with a Tracy.
Yeah.
or a Tracy with a big dog. That could well be, because Tracy is very concerned about the well-being of everybody there. Tracy's the one that wants to arrange all the birthday parties. She's the one that wants to make sure that everyone's happy, and that this is not just a functional environment, but an excellent environment that people look forward to coming into every day. How many of you have ever worked for a company where you looked forward to coming in every day? I have. I've also worked for a company where I had to park my car in the parking lot and sit there for 15 minutes to get up the energy and the will to walk into the building. And I can tell you which one I was at for a very short time before I left it, and which one I would be there today if I didn't have a change of life. So it's Tracy's job is really important, really important. That's why we say, while everyone is essential, while everyone is necessary, Tracy is essential. And Tracy can be a man, it can be a woman, it can be, whatever. It doesn't matter. Gender does not matter in any of these profiles. Carol, how about you?
I'm more of Stan and a little bit of the big dog.
Okay, good. So which one dominates for you?
Stan.
Stan. Oh, okay. So I'm going to say that you're a strategic thinker.
Mm.
You plan things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Planning. Right. You probably keep a good calendar.
Yes.
You probably know exactly what you're going to do for the rest of the day, right?
Yes.
That's a Stan. That's a Stan. And negotiators are a Stan, right? Because a negotiator goes in with a strategy on how to get the very best of what they want. How about you, Brenda?
At first, when we were looking at the images, I was drawn to Ranger and then Stan, but I'm probably more a Ranger type.
Okay. All
I
right.
am big picture, out of the box, thinker. I'm great at the beginning of something. Don't give me the details. In fact,
you're a Ranger. You're
people think I'm detailed, but no, it's because I'm looking
okay.
and seeing.
You are describing Ranger perfectly. Think Steve Jobs. All right. Steve Jobs. I want a phone with only one button. I'm sorry, Mr. Jobs, that is not possible. Make it possible. Right. Now, he had no idea how to do that. No idea what the design would be. He just wanted that. And he revolutionized the world with it. Now, as I say, he had no idea how to make it. Well, that's Ranger too. Don't bug me with that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, because visionaries frequently don't. They leave it to other people to figure it out. And that's, if you know that, if everybody at the table knows that, then they can focus on what is your talent and what is your contribution to everyone around you. How about some of these people with no video on? How about Diana? Well, Jerry, let's get you involved. I like that, Jerry.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Carl. So I think I'm a combination of Scotty and Tracy. And if I can just share a little anecdote about a Tracy related story.
Mm-hmm.
One of the companies that I worked for previously had for whatever reason, the company is no longer around, but nevertheless, they had company reunions. And a coworker was at another company and was explaining to one of their new coworkers that they were going to a company reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And the person they were explaining it to was in shock and said, "You want to see the people you used to work with?" And I think it's important to have that kind of environment where you want to see people 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. That's the, well, okay. Yeah. That I see the Tracy. Now, how does this, the Scotty was your second one, right?
Yes, so Scotty's actually my first choice, but I want to be that Tracy person as well. So the Scotty's
Ah,
my first choice because I work in an area of what I'll say is quality assurance closely related to regulatory
okay.
affairs. And my job is to keep the company out of trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's certainly a Scotty. Now, it's important that you recognize this in yourself, that you have these two people inside of you who might clash every once in a while. And it's important that you understand that. It's and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but it's also important for people who do the hiring to make sure that the right person is sitting in the right seat and to be able to quickly identify what kind of person they're hiring. Now, obviously, I assume you've been doing your quality control for quite some time, right?
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about that anymore, right? You just do it. And that's when the Tracy can, you can allow Tracy to come out and make things right for everybody and make sure that everything's right. And probably when you do find problems in your quality control, you're very respectful and generous with the people whose work that you are finding issues with.
It's more a matter of making sure that competent people are within the organization
Yeah,
and there are defined processes,
yeah.
and the processes become proven processes, not best.
Mhm.
I hate the term
Good.
best practices, but proven processes, and be very process oriented about what the effort is supposed to
Okay.
be.
And that's where, oh, okay, now that's interesting that you say that. You focused on processes. That's where Scotty and Stan overlap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stan wants those processes put in place as well. That's a strategic thinker, and these are concerns that Scotty and Stan can both have and that they both share. That's where they can talk together. They can, yeah, and that's where they can do a lot of good as a team. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you for sharing all that. That's really interesting. Gordon, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did have a question, Carl.
Sure.
So what's very interesting to me is the leadership that brings you into corporations to begin this type of training. That type of leader has to be very enlightened. Do they typically fit one or a cross of these different dogs?
Well, that's one of the reasons that we developed this. And let me just talk about that right now. It's a good segue you came up with. And that is, it's nice to know who you are. That's valuable. But even more important, who are you talking to? Who is that person? What language do they speak? And I'm not talking about English, Spanish, or Russian. I'm talking about what are their concerns? What drives them? And so this simple and very easy to remember method that we've come up with, you can very quickly begin to understand people in a very short amount of time. For instance, if you're interviewing someone for a job, if you're a manager and you need a particular type of person, you can find out very quickly which one of these 7 they are by the questions you ask. And that's where you brought up the idea of management hiring. Management needs to understand these personalities, because very often they will choose the wrong person for the job. And you don't put the person in the wrong seat on the bus. That's all. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting yourself up for failure. And that's just essential to understand this very simple method that we have devised. And believe me, we have seen people. Well, just the other day, we were talking to someone who's a real great business professional, and we showed him this. He said, I'm having trouble with a person, and I don't understand how he thinks. And we said, well, okay, what are the problems that you're having? Now, he didn't tell us what his job was, but about 20 seconds into it, we went, he's a buster, right? Is he in sales? He says, yes. He's my chief salesperson. And I said, okay, you got to start talking to Buster. That's why you're having trouble communicating with him. And we met with him a week later. We said, how's that working out with your Buster? He says, oh, it's so much better now. We're finally on the same page. And it's because now he knows who he's talking to. And obviously he hired the person correctly because he described Buster perfectly. So that's really why we created this. Yes, it's important to know who you are, so that you get yourself into the right seat. But even more important, are you putting the right people into the right places? That's important. Okay, how am I doing on time?
You are doing fantastically well on time. You have 3 minutes left for 47 minutes for the green light to come on, give or take.
Excellent. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about this? And by the way, Tech Master,
Yes.
Tech Master Gordon, can I drop a document into the chat?
Let's see, you're co-host, so you should be able to do that.
Okay, great. When we're done, hang around for just a minute, folks. I will put a document into the chat that will give you more information about these profiles so that you can start using it. And it becomes sort of a game, really. It's kind of fun if you just go around and try to categorize people as which character they are. And if you do that and you just have fun for a couple of days doing that, you're going to get very good at it. And you're going to be able to size people up very quickly, very efficiently. Ryan, you have a question.
Carl, I have a question.
Yes.
I wasn't able to attend. I've been busy. I want Gordon Kaiser, who knows me well, and Jerry Valenti, who knows me very well, to guess which dog is my primary and which dog is my secondary. They know me better than, and you know me. So
yes.
Have Gordon guess for me.
Interesting.
And have Jerry Valenti guess for me.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Gordon.
I have to give that a little bit of thought. Could you put the
put our friendly animals back up on stage here?
Yeah.
And let's do a quick recap across.
Okay, Stan is the strategic thinker. Jack is the production genius. Buster is the salesperson. Big Dog is the mediator. Tracy is the, for want of a better word, the HR who makes a livable environment for everybody. Ranger is the visionary. Whoops, sorry. He's the dreamer. And Scotty is the risk averse.
Okay, Gordon, which one?
Well, I'll need Carl's input on this. So which one or combination would be the driver, the get things done, the persistent?
God, you know me so well.
That is a Jack. Jack is the get her done dog, right?
There we go. That's
Okay,
it.
Jerry Valenti, do you have a second guest or do you?
Yeah, I would have said the primary more of the Tracy person. So while you're indeed exactly what that was suggesting of the Jack type, but nevertheless, it's done in the spirit of having a good, pleasant environment.
I love it when you're both right.
How
Oh.
about
Oh my God, you both are amazing.
what do you do,
Carl,
Diana?
you taught well.
What do you do, Diana?
No, this is Mary Berg. I'm on.
Oh, this is
Diana.
Mary. Oh, you're on Diana's link. I see. Oh, okay,
She's
Mary.
taking over as usual.
Well, now that I know it's you, yes.
So now they have to re-identify you. They thought you were Diana.
Well, Diana is
Mary
here, but
Bird
so is
is
Mary.
different. Mary Bird is different. This is
Yeah.
Dr. Pat. Hi.
I know. Hi, Dr. Pat. I saw you.
Well, I know Mary. I know Mary is a Jack. Mary is definitely a get her done. Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay. All right. So, Ryan, you have a question? And by the way, welcome, Mary. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, so
I've been looking forward to your presentation. I haven't been able to get here yet.
Okay.
I just caught it.
well, thank you again for a wonderful speech. In fact, I love the examples. What are some ideas or questions that you use to help identify those types of dogs on the oval table when you're working with the leadership or team?
Well, I think if I was hiring someone, I would give them situations and ask, how would you handle this? That's a good one to work with. What did you like most about your last job? Have you ever had a bad job and why? What didn't you like about it? Don't tell me who it was, but what didn't you like about it? You can learn a lot just from those two questions, frankly. I know when I was interviewing at Disney, they asked me what I liked most about my previous job. And I said, well, the people, it was a family. I loved it. And I later found out that was the answer that got me the job. That's what they wanted. That's exactly what they wanted. And so ask questions like that. That will tell you a lot. But I really do recommend to everybody for the next couple of days, if you're out and about, you're in a store or wherever, try to categorize people quickly. See how quickly you can do it. I'm going to give you a document so that you can read up on it and make sure that you know what dog is what. And I'm going to wrap this up now. And thank you so much. You've been a great audience. If you want to learn more, there is a book available. Doug Bowers put all these into a parable where he introduces the dogs and how they react. It's available, of course, on Amazon. It's also available in an Audible version on Audible, and it's all available wherever good books are sold. It's a quick read. And you'll begin to understand a lot about how these characters work. I also recommend that you listen to the Oval Table podcast that Doug and I do. I've listed some names here of just some of the people that we've had on: Patricia Fripp, Jim Cathcart, David Noor, Scott McCain, Joel Block, Derek Arden, Mark Hunter, Susan Rowan. These are all internationally known consultants and experts. And just listening to the podcast, you're going to get thousands and thousands of dollars worth of consulting for free. So I highly recommend that you go there. And again, thank you so much for your attention and your participation. And back to you. Ryan?